Hello, my name is Nicolaas, and today I would like to show you how to play World Wonders. World Wonders is published by Arcane Wonders and is designed by Zé Mendes. It's a city building game for 1 to 5 players and it plays in about 70 minutes. At the end of the video I will also show you how you can join in some advanced play and even play the game solo. So now let's go to the table so I can show you how to set up and play World Wonders. In World Wonders, all players try to build the most glorious city ever seen. We will be building roads, buildings and of course monuments to increase our population and our production of resources. Of course, nothing is for free, so we have to carefully think about what we want to buy each turn. At the end of the game, the player with the most points wins and will be the creator of the greatest city in all antiquity. So now let's take a look at the setup and I will be setting up the game for 3 players. First, we place this main board in the center of the table. If playing a 4 or 5 player game, we will be adding pieces to this main board. These pieces will be added near the beginning or the end of the main board, and their goal is to add more building tiles when playing with more players. Since we are now playing a 3-player game, we will not be using these extra pieces and we are fine with just this main board. As I said, we will be using this main board to store our building tiles. We will also place our player tokens on top to keep track of the turn order. And here in this spot we will place the first and second player pedestal token. But let's start with the building tiles. On this main board you can see that there are spaces and they have the shape of the building tiles. So at the start of the game we take all the building tiles of one shape and then we will shuffle them and place them in their correct space on this main board. Each stack will always have 10 tiles. This is also the maximum number of rounds that the game can last. After that we will now reveal 1 tile from each stack, and this will be the marketplace where we can buy building tiles during the game. We now place the first and second player pedestal token on its appropriate space. Now each player will choose a color, and in this game I will be using these 3 player tokens. We have a blue player, the red player and the green player. At the start of the game we will randomly place these tokens on the turn order track. Underneath these building tiles, we will place a number of roads. For our 3-player game, we will place 2 long roads and 1 set of short roads. A set of short roads always consists of 2 2x1 tiles and 1 1x1 tile. Next to this offering, we will also place 1 tower. It's always 1 tower, no matter how many players join in the game. This deck is a deck of monument cards. In here you will find all the monuments that players will be able to play during the game. At the start of the game we will shuffle this deck and we will reveal 3 cards. After revealing these cards you put the deck to the side and you can place its appropriate miniature on the card. You can place the other monuments near the game board, because each time when somebody buys a monument, we will replace it by a new one. You can put the deck of solo cards and the cards for advanced play back into the box. I will explain how these work at the end of the video. Finally, we place a stack of loan tokens near the main board. Let's now proceed with the player setup. Each player has already chosen a color, and he receives a player board, a resource board in that color. I will now set up for the blue player, but this is the same for all players. Along with this resource board, you also get a map board. Each map board has 2 sides, an A side, where there is a lake in the middle, and a B side, where it shows you a river. Players have to agree and have to use the same side. So maybe now for this playthrough we will be using the A side, so all players place their map board showing the A side. The same goes for this resource tracker. The resource board also has an A and a B side. This is the A and this is the B side, and again all players have to agree on which side to use. We will now be adding the tokens that we need to track the resources onto the board. The first thing we can track is the gold that we spent during the game, so we place our gold token on the 0 spot of the gold track. We will also, of course, try to grow our population, so we place the population token on the 0 spot of the population track. And then we have the 3 main resources from the game. Here in green, this is the food track. We also have some ceramics that we try to produce. And then the last track is the blue track. We'll be tracking our production of gears. You can also give each player a player aid card. On one side it will show you the cost of the different pieces in the game. And on the other side it will show you the building restriction or requirements that you have to follow during the game. Finally, each player gets a long road token, and you have to place this road together with the first piece you purchased during your first turn. The game will be played over a number of rounds, and each round players will take turns in turn order, and you can find this turn order on the turn order track. At the beginning of a round, all players have 7 gold to spend. Each turn, players must perform one action. This action is buying an item and placing it on their board. When a player has spent their 7 gold, they are out of the round, and when all players have spent their gold, the round is over. The game ends after 10 rounds, and this is also the amount of buildings in each stack. Or the game can also end at the end of a player's turn, when he has reached the final spot in the population track. At the end of that round, the game ends and all players will count up their points. Before I explain you what you can buy, first let's take a look at the 5 different ways that you will score points in the game. As a reminder, you can find these 5 ways to score points on your player board. The first thing that awards you points is this ring symbol. You will find it on your population track, and you can also find it on monuments. So this means that at the end of the game, this will award you 1 point for each ring. The second way to gain points is gaining them through the resource tracks. At the end of the game, you will receive points for the lowest value on any resource track. So here I would gain 5 points at the end of the game. You can also gain 1 point for each natural resource that's adjacent to something you built. And finally, you score 1 victory point for each building tile that is surrounded and has no open green spaces adjacent to it. But we will take a closer look at a scoring example at the end of this explanation. Everything that you can buy is shown here on this player aid card. The first thing you can buy are these roads. In our 3-player game, we have the choice between a long road or a set of short roads. If you buy a long road or a set of short roads, they each cost you 1 gold. The second thing you can buy are these pedestals. They each cost you 1 gold, and when you buy them, you can place them underneath your player token, and at the start of the next round, you will place them on the first or the second spot of the turn order track, depending on which one you bought. The third thing you can buy is this tower, and it costs you 2 gold. You can find the cost of each building on the stack that's behind it. So here, this building would cost me 5 gold, and this building would cost me 2 gold. And then of course there are the monuments. These have no fixed price. You have to spend all your remaining gold to buy one. And so this also means that you end your turn and that you can't take any more actions during this round. Only the monuments are immediately replaced when somebody buys one. All other items are replenished at the end of a round. In addition to your required action, there is 1 free action that you can take. During their turn, a player can take or pay off a loan token. You can take a loan on any turn before you have spent all your gold. It gives you 2 extra gold to spend, so now you could move your gold marker up to 9 gold instead of the normal 7. To pay off a loan, you have to pay 3 coins by the end of the game. If you still have the loan in front of you at the end of the game, you will lose 2 victory points. If you ever have some gold left, but there is nothing more that you can buy on the marketplace, this also ends your turn and your round. Now, what can we do with all the pieces that we buy during the game? Let's start with the road tokens. Whenever you buy a road token, so you take the long road token or a set of short road tokens, you pay the cost, and this is always 1 gold, and you place it on your player board. A road token has to be placed next to another road, adjacent to the sidewalk, and this is the sidewalk, or adjacent to a tower. The spaces you see here, these are natural resource spaces. You can overbuild these, but then you will no longer be able to score victory points with them at the end of the game. So at the start of the game we received this long road piece. Since there are no roads on the board and no towers, we have to place this first long road adjacent to this sidewalk. We could place it, for example, here, but of course we're also allowed to place it like this, just as long as one of its sides is touching the sidewalk. You are allowed to build a long road over a water space as long as you start and finish the road on a land space. If you want to do this, you have to flip the road token to the other side, and this side shows you a bridge. So I would be able to place it here, because then I am adjacent to another road, so that means I can place the road token there, and I am finishing and starting on a land space, so I could place it here. If we buy a tower, this costs us 2 gold, and then we can place it on any land space adjacent to something that we have already placed. So now I could place this tower token maybe here, or on another spot here. What's special about the tower is that you will be using this tower to place road tokens adjacent to it. So if during the game I have placed these roads and this building, I can place my tower here, because it's adjacent to something that I already placed on the map. But now I am allowed to place another road token starting adjacent to this tower. And I can place new buildings around this road. But how do we place the building tiles? Well, let's buy one tile and see how we can place it on the board. Let's take a closer look at our building tiles. A building tile can be one of 5 different building types. Each type of building has a different letter and a different color. We have the buildings with a T. In the purple color, they are temples. The M buildings are markets. The buildings marked with a B are libraries. The F buildings are farms. And the buildings with an H are habitations. Each building will provide you with an increase in your production of resources. So when you buy a building, you will first adjust the resource tracker on the board. In this case, if I have bought this building, I will be able to add 2 food to my production, 1 ceramics, and 1 gear. It's worth noting that each time when you pass or reach a population marker on your board, you adjust the population marker by moving it 1 space to the right. And remember that if any player reaches the last space on this population track, the game will end at the end of that round. After adjusting the resource track, we are now able to place this building tile onto our player board. There are 2 rules we need to follow when we place a tile onto the board. A building tile has to be adjacent to a road or adjacent to another building of the same type and color. So we could place this building here, and maybe the next time when we buy one of those type of buildings, we are able to place it next to a road, or we are allowed to place it here next to this building of the same type. Whenever you buy a building, it is only replaced at the end of the current round. If you really want to be the first or the second to start the next round, you can buy one of these pedestals. They always cost you 1 gold. And of course, if the first one is still available, you take the first one, because this one will allow you to be the first player in the next round. If you buy one, you just take it after buying the cost and you place it underneath your player token. So I'm the blue player, so I would place it underneath my blue player token. At the start of the next round, I will be placed on the first space of the turn order track. During the game, whenever a player has reached the 7th spot on the goal track and that means that he's out of the current round, it might be a good idea to place their player token next to the track, keeping the same position, but this makes it easier for the other players to see the remaining turn order during this current round. And of course, the last thing we can buy during our turn are the monuments. When you buy a card, you will take its miniature and its card and you place it near you, and you will immediately reveal a new monument and place the tokens on that card. So this is the obelisk, so we will place the 2 obelisks near the card. So just remember that when you buy a monument, this will end your turn because you have to spend the rest of your gold, and this takes you out of the current round. So buying a monument early will make sure that you have the monument that you want, but it also means that you will no longer be able to take other actions during your turn. When you buy a monument, you always have to place it immediately on your game map, just like you do with the other building tiles. If we take a look at the monument card, you will find that it has 3 parts. The top part showing you the name of the monument, a picture of the monument, and a number of victory points that you earn at the end of the game. If it shows you a resource symbol, this also means that you're now allowed to move your resource up 1 or more, depending on the symbol you find here. In the middle of the card, you can find the spaces and the type of terrain that the monument must be placed on. It also shows you its orientation. And at the bottom of the card, it will show you where the monument wants to be adjacent to. You can find these adjacency symbols in the rulebook. So for this monument, it wants to be adjacent to a road and to a temple. So maybe during a previous turn, I have bought for 2 gold this temple and I placed it here. It has to be adjacent to a road, so I can place it like this. And now that I bought my monument, ending my turn, I can place it adjacent to the road and to this temple building. So this would be a correct placement because it is on land spaces and it's adjacent to a road and to a temple. Let me show you some more monuments and their placement rules. This is an aqueduct. If I want to build this one, it has to start and finish on a land tile, and in between I can have any type of space. I can place it over water or land spaces. But it also has to be adjacent to water, to a road and to a farm. During my previous turns, I have built a tower next to this road. That way I can start a new road from the tower, and adjacent to the road I build a farm. Now I'm able to place this aqueduct because I can place it here. And this means that it starts and finishes on a land space, so that's okay. In between we have a mixture of water and land spaces, and it's adjacent to water, to a road and to a farm. Whenever you see this symbol, it means that it can be a land or a water space. So I could even have placed my aqueduct over here, because now it finishes and starts on a land space. There are land spaces in between, but it's still adjacent to water, to a road and to a farm. These are the obelisks. Whenever a monument consists of more than 1 piece, you can use all of its components to comply to these adjacency rules. Of course, we also have to keep in mind what the card tells us about how we can place it on the map. It wants to be adjacent to a road and to a habitation, but it also has to be placed on a land space, and this means that we have to leave a space between the 2 monuments, but this can be any space. So maybe we can place our obelisk here, one here, then we leave a spot open, and this can be a road, and we place the other one here. Now let's take a look if it's correctly placed. It's adjacent to a road, and it's adjacent to this habitation tile. Remember, whenever there's more than 1 component to your monument, you can use any component to apply to these rules. This is the Great Wall of China. It also consists of different components. If a monument consists of multiple components, I can arrange them on my board however I want, as long as they are adjacent to each other. So I could maybe move the main building and place it here, place one wall here and another one here. I am now adjacent to a natural resource and to a road and a habitation building. The last building I want to show you is this lighthouse of Alexandria. If we take a look at the card, it wants to be adjacent to a road and to a library. Whenever you see this asterisk, it's the same like with the aqueduct. You must place it at least on one water spot. So this means I could place it here. It is now adjacent to a road and adjacent to a library, and one of its 4 building spots is a water space. Since the card shows us that the 3 other building spots can be land or water, I'm even allowed to place it here, completely on water. Because we can place it on 4 water spots and it's still adjacent to a road and to a library. So we keep buying things and adding them to our game board. And once all players have spent all their gold, we would now prepare everything for the next round. First, we will discard all building tiles that have not been bought this round, and we will place new tiles for every stack. If any towers or roads are bought, we will replace them by new ones. So in this case, for our 3-player game, we will add another long road and 1 set of short roads and then 1 tower. So now let's take a look at the turn order that we will set up for the next round. If somebody bought the first player pedestal, he will go on the first spot. So we would remove these tokens, player tokens, to the back, and we will place blue onto the first spot because he bought the first player pedestal. We will place this pedestal back on the main board, and so blue is sure that he can start first on the next round. For the other players, we take a look at their population track. The player with the lowest population would take the 2nd place. The player with the highest population would take the 3rd place. If there's a tie between the 2 players, we would take a look at the number of monuments that they have already built. The player who built the least monuments would then take the 2nd spot. The player who built the most would take the 3rd place. If there's still a tie, they would keep their position from this round. So green would remain in 2nd place and the red player would go 3rd. Now, lastly, all players put their gold marker back to the 0 spot and we're ready to start a new round. At the end of the 10th round, or whenever a player has reached the end of its population track, the game would end and we would now count up our scores. To help us with that, we would now flip the main board and it shows us a score track. We place all player tokens nearby so that we can keep track of all the points that we score. To show you how to track your points, I will be using the blue player's game board. We will be tracking our points using the guide that we see here on our player board, and it shows us which steps we need to take when we want to score our player board. First thing first, the population track. For each ring symbol that you have passed or reached, you can count 1 point. Blue has reached 1 ring, so he can now add 1 point. This is his first point. Second thing we do is take a look at our resource tracks. We will score points equal to the value of our lowest resource. In this case, it's ceramics and it's on a value 5. So we would be adding 5 points to our score and this would bring us to 6. Next step are the monuments. We can count the amount of ring symbols that we have on all the monuments that we built during the game. So for blue, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. So adding to our 6 is now 12 points. And then we take a look at the natural resources. For each natural resource that's adjacent to a piece that we placed on the board, we get 1 point. So if we take a closer look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 natural resources that are adjacent to something that we placed on the map. So we would now add 10 points. And the last thing we do is we take a look at our building tiles. For each building tile that no longer has any of the land spaces adjacent to it, you also get 1 point. This means I would get 1 point for this building and this building, so that's already 2 points. These buildings have land spaces next to them, so they don't count. This one again scores me a point, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think that's it. Yeah, because all the other ones have a land space next to them. So I would score now 6 points. 6 points brings me to 28, and this would be my end score of the game. At the end of the game, the player with the most points is the winner, and he or she will be declared the creator of the greatest city in all antiquity. Like I told you in the beginning, we will now take a look at the advanced and solo play. Once you have played the game a few times, you can add these public objective cards to the game. At the start of the game, you would shuffle this deck, and then you place 3 cards near the main board. You can return the rest of the cards to the box. These cards show you objectives that you can reach for during the game. On the top half of the card, you can always see what you need to achieve, and on the bottom part you see the points that you can get. This culinary card wants you to have the highest value on your food track. The religion card wants you to have the most temple buildings. And the City of Wonders just wants you to have the most amount of wonders in your city. So if at the end of the game the blue player has the most temples, he would now gain 3 victory points. The player with the second most would have 1 victory point. If there was a tie for first and second place, we would add all victory points, so in this case that would be 4. We divide them by 2, and each player gets half, so each player would get 2 points. If there's ever a tie for the second place, all tied players gain 1 victory point. You can easily play World Wonders solo by adding these solo play cards. These show you the gear symbols on their back. First, we would set up the game for 2 players. This means we have 1 tower, 1 long road and 1 set of short roads. However, instead of revealing 3 monuments, we would now only reveal 2. Our opponent is called the automaton. He always takes the first turn of the round, but I always take the final turn in the round. When it's his turn, you would reveal 1 card from the top of the deck. You always start looking at the top part, and the idea is that you will remove those components from the game. So in this case, I would remove a tower and then a building with this shape. So I would remove this farm from the game. And it would be my turn. If I would turn this card over during a future round, I would no longer be able to remove these components, so I look at the next part of the card. In this case, it shows me the picture of a monument. The arrow shows you which of the 2 monuments he will remove. In this case, he will remove the left monument. So we take the mini and the card and we place it off to the side. Another card we can have consists of 3 parts. And here again, you first look at the top part, and if you cannot remove that, you will move down 1 by 1. All the automaton's cards work in the same way, except for this one. This card means that you will now reshuffle the complete deck, including this card. Play ends as usual, by me reaching the end of my population track, or at the end of the 10th round. You can play the solo game in easy mode or in hard mode. In easy mode, at the end of the game, you will count the value of all your resources. So this means we have 10, this is 16, and 9. This means I will have to score 25 points to beat the game in easy mode. If playing in hard mode, we would now add all the ring symbols from cards that he took during the game. So in this case, he would have 26 points, and that would be the score that I need to beat. This is all you need to know to set up and play World Wonders. If you like this video, you can hit the like and subscribe button. And you can also follow MeepleCare on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. This was MeepleCare, taking care of your Meeple needs.